Hey everyone, Tiffany here with Results Driven. I'm super excited today. I'm bringing on a good friend and mentor of mine, Gary Harper. I'll let Gary go into all of his massive bio that he has. But Gary has helped me tremendously, both on my education side as a friend and as a mentor for multiple different things that we work on. And Gary also has a COO program where he helps hire COOs and talks about the importance of the role, the functionality, who you should hire, how you pay them, what their roles and responsibilities are, etc. So I thought it would be good after a lot of meetings that I've been having, especially with my 6 month small group students, to bring him on live and be able to ask him questions. So this is being streamlined, or this is being streamed through StreamYard, which allows you to comment on the video and ask questions, and then they will pop up in front of me, and I can ask Gary whatever questions that you guys have. So let's make this engaging. Please comment any questions you have along the way, and we will bring them up on the screen and ask Gary live. Aiden, you want to go ahead and bring him on? Awesome. Hey, Gary.
Hey, how are you today?
Good. I just did a quick little intro of you, and I feel like most of my community probably already knows you. But if they don't, I thought you would be able to go over maybe the long list of items of your background.
Sure.
But as a reminder, everyone, Gary's worked with us tightly on a lot of things, and he also has worked with a lot of my students. He has a large corporate background, and if there's one person to talk to about processes, systems, operational roles, it's Gary. So do you want to give a quick background, and then we can just jump into some the topic at hand, and then if you got anything to present, we can do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gary Harper started off in corporate America in 1997, right after being married to Susan, and went into corporate America as an entry level employee, actually, and worked my way up. By 2000, or let's say 1999, I was an executive for them. I had become I think the title was National Manager of Business Initiatives and Development. So that was my title. It was a mouthful at the time. And I hated saying it. Like everybody say, what's your title? I'm like, why can't I just say national manager? But that's what they had me say. And so I ended up working my way up to that, started working with entrepreneurs, smaller businesses at first, and then we moved into bigger businesses. Left there and we ended up into a corporate, a little bit bigger of a corporate environment, working for a company called Icon. And Icon stood for I Know One Name. And we went in and helped Fortune 500 companies put together systems of process for their non-core function type services. It's where a lot of my training came in at that point. By 2004, I had worked my way out of that company into a competitive type company, moving my way up the channel a little bit, and got to a point where I was an executive for, working for Canon. And Canon was an organization that I had about 750 employees and then about 50 mid-level management at that point. And did that until 2011. During that journey, I was also dabbling in real estate. By 2004, I had bought a bunch of rental properties already, trying to create the cash flow, that Robert Kiyosaki model that we all learned about in the 90s. And even Carlton Sheets, if I'm dating myself a little bit, I bought his courses in that time. He's no longer with us. He's actually passed, but bought that stuff and started learning about cash flow and the importance of cash flow to get out of the rat race, if you will. And not sure that I did it quite right. By 2008, I'd lost all those rentals, bought them all wrong, and it was upside down. And the market crashed. Ended up in a really bad place in real estate. Ended up filing bankruptcy completely on the product, all the houses. Lost them all, and was really kind of licking my wounds. And was like, I am never doing this again. Right? Like, this is not for me. And corporate America looked good on me. I made good money. I won executive of the year 8 out of 10 years. Exotic trips around the world, like me and Susan, all expenses paid. And I was like, this is just not my thing. And woke up one day, 2011, found out I had Lyme disease, got really ill, kind of paraphrasing everything down a little bit here, but got to a point where I went back to a 5-year-old mental state, could not work, was not able to drive to Chicago and fly like I was going before. I'd be gone usually Monday through Thursday, flying around, different locations. And got to a point where I just couldn't leave the house. And it was a pretty bad time for me and my wife at that point. I lost everything in real estate. My corporate America job's on the flux. All our savings is gone. Like, it was just a really bad year. And I call it my year of Job. And so fought through that year, persevered, came out on the other side, My brother-in-law, who I'd done a lot of learning from at this point, and we bought most of my rentals from, had also had a very bad 2007 and on. And so we ended up, he ended up calling me saying, hey, would you partner with me, come in and help me build systems and processes? I'm going to do wholesaling. I'm not going to buy and hold anymore. I'm going to wholesale houses. He said, but nobody really knows how to do it. Everybody talks about it, blah, blah, blah. And now mind you, Tiffany, people didn't share information back then. It was very taboo, actually, to share your systems and processes. We would have been lynched for what we do today back then. I mean, people just didn't do it. Masterminds were not a thing, and sharing of information was not a thing. 2008 to 2011 kind of woke the industry up, and it's like, okay, we are all going to lose again, or we could all protect each other's back ends, right? And I think that's kind of where it was born, is like there's security in numbers, there's knowledge and experience. And when you're able to bring all those people together, like Jason did and at CG, kind of the pioneer, honestly, one of the first people I remember ever having a mastermind. It was a great thing. And so I joined up with him, did leave corporate America after about 8 months, after healing and getting healthy again, left corporate America, went full time with him. And we built a company there that started off first year doing 48 deals, all the way to north of 300 deals a year within a couple of years, and bought and sold in 5 states, and ended up getting to a point where I realized that I did not love real estate. Real estate was not my thing, but I lost passion for it. And I realized, like, why have I been so passionate over the last 6 years working here, but then, or hit with them, but not liking real estate? And it was because it was building that. It was the journey of building what we had, not actually the real estate side of it. And so I decided actually at that point to retire, and but about 6 months not doing anything. And my phone kept ringing. People kept asking me. There was a guy named Matt Skeller out of Dallas, Texas, that called me. He's like, hey, I really need you to help me document my processes and maps and things like that, and lean them out, making me more productive and efficient. I really want to build a team. I can't do that without the process, procedures, policies documented. And so I did Zoom call with him. It was the very first time Harper ever had a client. I did a Zoom call. We built it all out. He grew very quick, and he went to a mastermind, and he talked about it. And in that room, I think that day I got 7 phone calls from that room, and they were like, we need your help. So Harper was born. It was born from people wanting it, not so much me wanting to start a business. And I didn't need to start another business. I was pretty happy with where we were. Did things right the second time, was able to retire financially free, and not abundantly wealthy. Like I won't lie and be like, we had so much money we never needed anything, but we were happy, and we were very good with where we were. And so Harper was one of those things that we wanted to do, to give back, to help people. I did make a promise to God in 2011 when I got sick, and I said, if you ever give me my life back, I'll give it back to helping other people. And I just feel like I'm required to do that at this point. It's my job to give back, which is why Harper's purpose is to do a good work to support God's work. And in that mindset, we don't take full payment till the end of our 90 days, because we do not want to receive payment if we didn't do a good work. And so, because it's never been about the money, it's been about helping. Now we fast forward from 2011, 2016, when I stepped away, to now. And now we've worked with over 1,100 businesses in the last 5.5, 6 years.
I know, it's been crazy watching your growth.
I know.
I don't even know how you sleep. You're on a plane every day.
Every day. Tonight at 6 o'clock, I'll be flying to Tampa, Florida. So I'll be there for 2 days. I go to Roanoke this week, and then I go to Myrtle Beach, and then I'll be back home Saturday night. So it's an every week thing. We love it. My kids are gone. My wife and I get to travel together. We get to enjoy that time. What kind of opportunity do you get in life where you can be on Myrtle Beach one day, right, and then San Diego the next, which happened just a couple of weeks ago. We were in Myrtle Beach, waking up that morning, seeing the sunrise, and then watch the sunset in San Diego. So it's been a huge blessing for us. It gives us the ability to travel. It gives us purpose back, temporary. I call it temporary purpose back. When your kids leave home, you feel like there's a level of significance that's gone, right? Nobody needs you anymore. And this has given us that ability to still give back and feel needed. So it's a little selfish, probably a little bit, but hey, I like it. We enjoy doing it. Thanks for asking. And that's a little bit about our story and where we are. I think Harper right now is, we just started a new company last week, and it's called Harper Marketing. And Brandon is the CEO of that. I'm the owner, and then he's got an integrator. And then we have a new company coming out actually in a week called Harper Media. And that one is we're going to start share space for pro spaces. in shopping mall or strip mall areas where you could go and do video recording and photography and things like that. So it's going to be a pro space where photographers and videographers can come rent the space by the hour and shoot content. So I feel like there's
Awesome.
in the media world we're in today, so many people want to be influencers and be online, and like you could go there and book out the space, hour by hour for the whole day and shoot content just all day long, and you don't have to have the need of the camera or the equipment and all that. You just walk away with your raw files, so you can do what you want to with. So that'd be kind of cool.
You're always starting something different.
I love it. Yeah. Starts in less than 30 days. We'll have it built out, and started with a budget of $100,000. So it'll be a nice studio.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, today we want to talk about the topic of hiring a COO. I think there's a bunch of questions I'm going to ask you around it. So let me just kick it off with some questions. So when someone's looking, well, I think there's, especially in wholesaling and flipping, typically what I see is the owner is process oriented and that's their background. And then they struggle with acquisitions because that's really not their forte is, or they're similar to only liking sales calls and revenue. And that's why they know how to grind it out and hustle, but they don't necessarily know how to integrate systems and processes. And a lot of those people come to me and they feel like they have to partner with someone versus hiring someone.
Sure.
And so I see it as, in my opinion, I don't know what yours is, but in my opinion, I feel like it's a common mistake made in the industry, and it costs people, anxiety, stress, financial distress when that partnership could go wrong versus hiring someone with a skill set and having them work for the company and still be incentivized by the company. So one, I guess, when do you feel like someone would know if they need a COO? And we can talk about structure here in a minute. And then I also, coming from corporate life myself, I moved up the chain and I look at, the three major corporations that I was a part of that have 10,000 plus employees. And personally, I think sometimes when students come to me and say, well, I need this, and this, I'm like, well, the reality of at least what you just gave me, a virtual assistant can do. And then two, let's take it a step further. What you're asking for is really an operations person that can handle that kind of work. They don't necessarily need to be a COO of the company either. And if someone doesn't come from corporate space, they might not understand that like what they're looking for might be, a 60, 70, $80,000 ops person versus someone coming in and being incentivized, on a much bigger scale. So I wanted to first start there and get your thoughts on that part, because I'd be interested to see what your opinion is on that.
Well, I do think you painted the scenarios the right way. There are definitely those two. There are operational driven people that come in that have the background for that. I think I'm going to say something probably a little controversial in the fact that everybody that starts a business doesn't automatically qualify them to be the CEO either. And I think there's a lot of people that are business owners that should not be the visionary of their own business, right? They should not be the CEO. And that puts them in a really tough spot because, what do? Do I go out and hire a visionary that I report to? I mean, that's not the reason why you got into it, right? And so, it's interesting because I see that mistake a lot too. I see the mistake a lot of somebody that is an integrator type mindset that hires another integrator, right? And they don't grow. They struggle with that growth. I would prefer that person not hire a COO, build out the organization, move into the owner's box because it's never going to scale, move into the owner's box, and then bring a CEO in that reports to them as the director of the board, and then let them push the vision and grow the organization. So there's that one side. The other side is, that more the typical, right, where they have the visionary. They should not be touching operational stuff. They're not good at it. They're constantly changing things. When it's not working, they blow it up instead of reinventing things or creating new. I do not like partnering with somebody. I do not think it's wise. I never say that it's a right thing to do. Most of those people come to me already partnering, and I have to clean up a lot of mess, honestly. And that's a very frustrating thing. And then they make the bigger mistakes, right? They make the mistakes of 50-50 splits in those type of business ventures. And they think, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll go my own way. I'll have 100% of what I do and 100%. But the truth is you still build something together, and you're still wasting time if it's not a long-term fit. I don't like it for many reasons, because I think to be in a relationship, you have to spend time developing that relationship. You or I did not get married to Josh or Susan because we had to a bar one night and we both had similar goals and we're like, all right, let's go get married and do this. Too many people actually align and become partners over goal orientation. And that's it. It's a goal orientation. Let's go crush the world together. And we're both excited about it. So we both think, well, we could do this together. And that's really the wrong mindset of why you should get together in any type of partnership. I say this: culture, when developed properly, comes from 3 areas. 1, it comes from value alignment. We share in the same values. Number 2, purpose alignment. We have share in the same purpose. 3, we share in the same goal alignment, right? You have to have all 3 alignments to have a good culture, especially between your CEO, COO. You have to share in those. Same thing in a relationship. You and Josh should align in values. You should align in purpose, and you should align in goals. And any one of those that are missing is going to put a strain on the relationship. And where 2 of those 3 are missing, it won't last. It just won't. You can work and get better at trying to get on the same page with goals as long as you have the right purpose, the same values.
Yep.
You can actually stay together if you have the right purpose, the same goals, and not the same values. You can for a while, and then it doesn't work. So it's just those things are what help create a healthy relationship. You can't do that overnight. You can't just jump into bed with somebody and be like, all right, let's do this together, right? And so giving up a part of your company, if you're going to ever do that, it better be with people that you have alignment in all 3 of those areas. And it takes time to make sure you have that alignment. Right?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but back when I was in a different coaching program when I first started out 6 or 7 years ago, Josh and I, obviously we're married, and when we started in real estate, we were kind of stepping on each other's toes. I would say I'm a little bit of a mixture of visionary and integrator. The only difference with me is that like I have the vision of how the process should go, but I actually hate doing the nitty-gritty details of it.
Yeah.
But I took a partnership survey that someone brought to me, and it was deep. I mean, it was a long partnership survey. I still have it, and it asked around like, where do you want your finances to go personally and professionally, your 5, your 10 year, and all these things. And I'll never forget, we separated rooms, we went and filled it out, we came together, and we're like, oh shit, we literally responded to every question the opposite except for one. So, and they were more like, we had not only just thought about running. At the time, I 100% owned the company. So it wasn't like he was a partner with me, but we were also getting married. So that was a big eye opener for us. And so we had to work through each one of those things. But now it's a story that I share with everyone that comes to me about whether they think they're going to partner someone. And I'm like, guys, we're so passionate about the process that Josh and I went through to be in 100% alignment with each other.
Right.
And I think that so many people make these fast decisions to partner just because they think that's needed because of a weakness that they might have. And they don't realize that a partnership's a much bigger picture.
Yep.
And I think also in the social media and a lot of the big guys, which I feel like, sometimes I hate to say it, but, we shouldn't compare ourselves to the big guys till we're one of those guys. Is that you hear like, oh, it's better to have a piece of the watermelon than be a small grape. And you hear all these philosophies. But if you've never ran a business before, and this is the first thing you've ever gone into, 98% of the people that do go into a partnership, it's literally because they think that they're weak at something. So they think someone should own a part of the company.
Yeah.
So I can't personally stress enough that to be very careful in how you go into a partnership. And if you are in my program, especially, make sure that you come to one of us coaches and leverage our leadership team before you just go make that decision, because that's why you're paying to be in our 6-month program.
Yeah.
And don't make those split decisions because they're going to impact you and your family. So I think also a lot of it just has to do with maybe you don't know what you don't know. And so like, what's the functionality of the COO? What is the expectations? How do we recruit them? How do we pay them? So let's go down that path if you don't mind. And
Sure.
I can't, since this isn't streaming in the Facebook group like I thought, I can't see the comments very well. Just a heads up. Where is it streaming right now? Okay, it was supposed to be in both the Facebook groups. Okay. All right. So we have some questions coming up, so I'm going to have them jump in. But let's just start with the COO role, the description, and the functionality of it first.
Okay. I do have some slides around that. You want me to bring the slides in for us?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. 100%. Share screen. Let's I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
No. Can you move the thing, Aiden, to one where it'd be sharing the screen? It's not sharing right now.
It's not. Okay, here we go. Should be sharing now. Not
I don't
yet.
see it.
Sorry,
Is there something he has to do specifically? You have to share it on your end within StreamYard.
Okay. Well, that's not going through. So we'll just talk to it. How's that? All right.
Give him permission. Okay.
Sorry, we'll roll. So COO, couple things. When we hear that title, we hear that, and EOS did a good job of creating the title integrator. A lot of people use that title, and that title being an ideology more than an actual title position. I don't know how many people call me like I need to hire an integrator, and they create an integrated job description. Well, that's not a thing, right? Like it's not. And not every business needs a COO either, right? Like there are different things in which we might refer to as that COO. There is the COO, there's a deputy CEO, there's an operations director, there's the integrator, if you will, there's a second in command, there's a general manager, right? There's an operations manager. Like it's when you talk about integrator, the job of the person is to harmoniously integrate the functions of the business. Okay. And depending on what stage of business you're in, you need a different level person for each one of those stages. I don't need a COO level person for stage 1 or stage 2. I just don't. And to be honest with you, they don't want to be there, right? They don't want to be in, what do you mean you don't have meetings? What do you mean you don't have a process? What do you mean? They want to manage that already in existing. Then they really want to get in and build out that nitty gritty. There are more of an operations directors and operations managers that are going to live more in that stage than a COO level. What is a COO? So a COO they're the CEO's problem solver is who they are. They're very detail oriented, especially for our audience today, right? We need to level somebody that's very detail oriented. They understand expense cost management. They understand how to manage expenses of the organization. Their focus is on the systems of the organization. They have a small team of leaders, typically three to 5 at this point. They own the company's business model, vision, and they also are responsible for integrating it. So that's who they are. What do? They faithfully execute that vision on a day-to-day basis and help the organization grow. They lead, manage, and hold people accountable. They integrate the functions of the business, and they resolve key issues in the organization, right? To block those day-to-days from coming into the CEO. They ensure that everyone is truly following and adhering to a company core processes, policies, and procedures. They also effectively collaborate with the CEO on a daily and weekly basis to make sure the vision is being carried out. And they confirm that all key messages are properly cascaded across the organization and to the customers properly. There are 3 types of what I would call COOs integrators when we look at a predictive index. The first type of COO is a captain type profile, right? Captain is a problem solver who likes change, innovation, while controlling the big picture. There is the venturer, which is a self-starting, self-motivation, goal-oriented risk taker. And then there's persuader. The persuader is a risk-taking, socially poised, motivating team builder. So depending on where your business is, each one of these need one or the other. And also depending on who you are. If you're very good at driving culture, if you're very good at making sure the employees feel touched and loved, then you probably want somebody more task-driven that's going to be more venturer type mindset, right?
Yep.
However, if you don't have that ability, if you have a high A type profile and a low at B type profile, and predictive, that would be like an analyzer, a strategist, somebody like that. You typically don't do a great job building culture or carrying your culture down in the organization. So a persuader is a great profile for that. I'm actually a persuader. It's one of the reasons why I can set in visionary or integrator is because I have the ability as a persuader with a high A, but also an integrator with a corporate hook that I can come and actually do the work. I could actually implement, which is why I was successful in corporate America, because they want a little both. They want somebody who's independent, problem solving to be an executive, but then they want somebody that's able to go carry it out and get it done. right?
Yeah.
And
So you and
so,
I remember when we met last time, share that same profile with the corporate
yep,
hook.
yep,
And I will say that does get me in trouble a lot because I'm the type of person that's like, okay, if it needs done, I'm just going to jump in and do because I can do it.
yeah.
And that's something that I'm working on a lot myself.
Well, Tiffany, I don't know that we'll ever get rid of it, right? It's something we both have. We are both very driven people, right? And the C brings out that drive, the how low your C goes. And we talk about like our impatience, right? And it's not so much an impatience, like we just can't wait to get it done. We want it done, but we want it done right, right? And so because we're impatient or we have a high drive to get something done, and we have the corporate hook, if it's not being done fast enough, it's not being done to the way we think it should be done, we're going to go do it ourselves, right? And so it's both of us. We're both that way. It's what has got us to where we are. It's what makes us successful. It is also what will cap our ability to grow to a Grant Cardone level, right? If we don't figure out a way to not do that, right? And get it done to other people. Over the last 25 years, I've gotten really good at that. Especially over the last 7 years, I've gotten extremely good at it. I've gotten to the point now where it's like, whether it's done perfect or not, at least it's done, right? And so I also like to say that as a COO, there are different types of COOs depending on what stage you're in. So we talk about the different types of profiles that you might see, but then also what's the mindset of that COO or integrator. The first one is what we call the executor. So the executor is perhaps the best known role, while the EO is out putting out the world's fires and building relationships. The CEOs focuses on internal activities in the business, which creates enterprise value. Most effective CEOs have a unique ability to get into the details and focus on prioritizing tasks that CEOs perceive as mundane, right? That's just not something that they want or feel like it's below their pay grade. Like that's not something I should do. I shouldn't have to create a process map, right? So that is the executor. That is typically their role. I typically find that person in early stages of business, right? Because they're carrying out the day to day. There's also the change agent. The change agent is a type of COO that comes into an organization as well. Their job is typically short lived, but their job is to come in and leave a specific strategic imperative of growth, change, or turning an organization around, right? They know that they're short lived. They don't live there long. They're usually a 1 to 3 year type COO, and then they move on to the next business. And those people who have found themselves, they're unicorns to some degree, but they find themselves and they know who they are. They are really good at what they do, but then they grow bored after that 3 years. Okay. If I sit in an integrator seat, I will be a change agent. That's who I am. It's usually, and that's why it worked well for me and Wayne. Wayne's like, could you come in and help me turn this thing around? Could you come in and help me build this thing to another level? I live there. If I'm going to be a COO, that's where I live. I live 100% there. And I know I have a short time span to get there before I move on. There's also the mentor. The mentor is a COO is brought in to mentor a future CEO, right? They need to get them. The CEO doesn't have time. We are planning on that person going into stage 5. They're going to go into retirement. And this COO is usually a seasoned person who's been around and helped other CEOs reach their potential. And so they help them train and get to the mindset and where they need to be the proper COO or CEO of the organization. And so typically more seasoned type person, someone who's been around a while, that's done this and worked with high level CEOs to be able to teach the younger, more inexperienced CEO how to be. So as you got the mentor. There's the other half. This is the one I don't like, right? I do like a lot actually for me. It's the larger than life extroverted CEO like me brings in a CEO, introverted CEO that cleans up his or her messes. I have to have that person. When
Yep.
I sit in the CEO seat, I create a ton of mess, right? One of the reasons why I brought Austin in for the years I brought him in was because he's very much an introverted COO. And as we were scaling and growing to the 15 or 16 companies right now, I needed somebody to clean up my mess because I would leave a lot of mess. We would move fast, but a lot of mess was left behind. And so cleaning that up, dialing in the systems process. And honestly, as I keep scaling, I will keep focusing on that COO. Susan started off in stage 1 to stage 2. I need a process. Susan's phenomenal at process. I mean, amazing at process. And that's why we grew so fast, is because she came in, she knew her role, and she implemented that right away. Wasn't very long. We started adding employees, and she's like, not me. I don't like conflict. I don't want to lead people. I don't like this. Right. So then I brought Austin in. Austin's great at procedures and helping people develop. And he's got the background in people developing and predictive index and all that. Right. Not loving culture. He doesn't love the culture side of it, but he's very much into making sure that we get the right people in the right seats. And that was critical to not going back to stage 2, to getting through stage 3 properly. So fast forward to where I am right now, we got a lot of people. My payroll is over $120,000 every 2 weeks. That is a lot of people. Mm-hmm. With that in mind, I've just promoted my daughter as a COO. She's a promoter profile because she is going to drive the culture of this organization. She doesn't have to love process. It's already in place. She doesn't have to put the right people in the right seats. They're already there. Now we have to inspire the right people. We have to get them motivated, get them ingrained in purpose. We got to get them to that next level. That other half was critical to me in stage 1 through 3.
Yep.
Now I'm starting to bring more in to somebody that can help me drive the culture of the organization, right? Then there's the partner. The partner here denotes a co-CEO model. And honestly, Tiffany, it's what most entrepreneurs are trying to do when they bring in and they call it the integrator. They create a partner. It's actually the partner COO. And it's not a COO, it's a CEO. And let me tell you this. There is only 2 organizations. I'm sorry, was it? 2 organizations that tried this over that I can find that have tried this, and honestly, neither one of them succeeded. The first one was BlackBerry. BlackBerry started with the co-CEO model, and it didn't make it. Matter of fact, where are they at today? Right? Because both of them had vision, and they were fighting with each other to get to where they wanted to be, and the company didn't make it. The second one was Chipotle. Chipotle actually created a co-CEO model and quickly realized there is no way this is going to happen if we scale. And so they nixed the mindset around it and got rid of it. But those are 2 that I've researched. It shows well, and it rarely works, right? There's the heir apparent. There's the heir apparent CEO. Larger than life companies often use COO roles as a parking spot for the succession plan for the new CEO. For example, this new CEO doesn't need mentored, but larger companies will typically sign contracts with CEOs, right? And so they'll bring a new CEO into that COO seat as a parking spot and get everybody ready to transition the culture to the new CEO.
Right? I had one comment, and they're asking, is this the traction model?
No, this is not the traction model. Traction doesn't talk about the 7 different types of CEOs. They just say, go get an integrator. They don't really tell you much about the integrator. They just say, go get them, right? Yeah. And honestly, even in Traction, they don't recommend, there's only very few amount of times in a Traction model where we actually recommend you have a CEO, COO, because Traction lives in stage 2 and a lot of times, and you don't typically have a need for a COO in stage 2. A lot of times you just need an integrator of some kind, which could be an office manager, right? It could be somebody at $15, $20 an hour that's doing the mundane things throughout the day that you don't need done. So no, very much not the Traction model. The MVP, this is the 21 years of studying all these systems and creating and helping an 1,100 business model. That's where this has come from. The last one is the MVP. The MVP consists of a promotion of a key staff member. You've seen it. I've seen it, right? Somebody rocks it in sales. They're a rock star in operations. They're a rock star in, property management or project management. And they say, I don't want to lose them. I need to give them more money. Can't really afford it. So what do? They bring them up and they send them in this seat. This is my CEO. We call it the MVP. And here's the problem sometimes with MVP. It's typically, when we make the decision, it's a high performer of low trust. We don't know that we trust them.
So when you say that, what does that mean?
Well, there are 2 types of people that we do business with or we work with every single day. I'll say 3. One is a high trust person, somebody we love. We get along with them. We align in purpose. We align in values. We trust them as an individual. You trust Josh. He's a high trust person, right? Josh trusts you. You're a high trust person to Josh. That doesn't always mean that it translates over to high performance, that they deliver the results, right? And so high trust, high performance is what we're going for. My son, for example, when he first started working for me, was a high trust individual. I did not trust him to perform, though. He hadn't earned it yet. Trust comes from time and results. This is why I don't jump into partnerships with people right away, because I don't trust you yet. We might align in values. I might have saw that you can build a massive business and you can drive results, but I don't know that I trust you as a person yet. It takes me years of developing trust with somebody to say I'm going to be in a partnership with you. A minimum usually of 3 years to be in a partnership with somebody. It's hard for me because I don't know that I trust you yet. Do I trust that you'll perform? 1,000 times over. Do I trust you as a person yet? I don't know. Tiffany, our relationship is less than a year old. You don't trust me yet as a person, and we're still building that, and we should still be building that. We would be naive to say that we trust each other 100% as people because we haven't been in a relationship longer than a year yet. But do we trust each other to perform? Yeah. Like, I know you drive it, right? You've seen me drive it. We've seen each other grow and help people. So we know the results would be there, but will a relationship be there? That's all the part to it that we have to make sure that we're on the same page with. So what happens in this model is we have somebody that's making us a boatload of money. They're crushing it. We naively tell ourselves that the reason why we don't get along is so they're just not who I am. And that's exactly what I needed. I need somebody that's not who I am to perform and drive the results of the organization. So we promote them up into a seat of an MVP, CEO type seat, because they're going to leave. We know they're going to leave because they're not the right person for us. And we try to fix it by giving them this. It's like a broken marriage when you have a baby, right? It's like, we know the partner's leaving, but we're going to have a baby together, see if we can fix it. And it doesn't do anything.
I see this. I see this actually as one of the most common things. And not even just in our industry. I see it across multiple industries and friendships and all that. I feel like at least once a week I get someone coming to me saying, this person's one of my highest performers. I'm afraid they're going to leave. And it's like, well, let's go to the root cause that we should never have one person that's dominating in the performance. So how do we take a step back and say, long term, how do we make sure that even if someone is a high performer, that if they did leave or something happened, that it doesn't necessarily matter to you?
Yeah.
Because you operate in a different headspace, in a different zone when you're not reliant on any individual in a company. Right. So I think that, we could go on that topic forever about someone feeling insecure about relying on somebody. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm looking at all the comments here. What is the last one, Aiden? That's not about the COO though, is it? Okay, part-time. Warren Luke said, I use David's simple CFO. Any recommendation on part-time COO operations manager model? I know you had something like that, right, Gary?
Yeah, we have the Sharper, Chief Sharper Officer model that. And the way that works, so here's where this is where it gets a little fishy because people want to say, I want a fractional COO that lives in my business every day. It helps me run my business and things. That's not out there in a lot of ways. And here's why. You can hire somebody to come in and build your processes and be a fractional COO in that area. Where we get into problems, and most people don't realize this is a thing, is co-employment issues. So you understand as a CEO of an organization, you're leading, holding people accountable, right? And managing the organization. If you're not a full employee of the organization, you can run into legal issues managing and holding people accountable to that organization.
I do want to dive off that because I have personally in a couple companies of mine hired fractional key roles. Yep. And I think that it's really important that everyone understand, and I had to, come to this reality too, is typically when you do that, you're at this position in the company where either one, you can't find the talent yet, so you need something to help fill the key priorities until you find the talent. Or two, you don't feel like you're big enough yet to be filling that role full time. And both of them are okay. But as long as you go into it with the expectation that one, they're typically not an employee, like Gary said, they can't do all of the things the IRS says that they can't do if they're not an employee, but they can also do major projects or build out major processes or whatever. I have a fractional CFO, and I actually have a fractional CMO temporarily on my education side, helping me build out webinar decks, pitch decks, different strategies with YouTube, different things that ultimately, like, they're helping drive the strategy and the process, but they're not in here managing people or anything right now. Ultimately, the goal is someone's managing people in that role along with driving all those processes and strategy. But sometimes those roles take a while to fill the seat until you're ready. So I want to emphasize that because I'm a big proponent of people having like false expectations, especially if something's fractional, and clearly understanding the legalities of the fact that people can't manage other people if they're not an employee of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where we run into sticky points with this, is that, people think that they can do that, bring in a fractional, and that they're going to hold their employees accountable, and they're going to, because they don't want that. You can easily hire somebody to come in and help you and be a fractional COO of like a process and procedures and that kind of thing. And Tiffany, you've done that, right? Like you
Yep.
brought in, I can't think of the name, but you
Ace.
brought in,
Yep.
yeah, and to do that. But like when you get to a point where you actually need somebody that's going to help hold the people accountable and drive down on the organization, it's really got to be somebody you commit to that's a part of your organization. We used to, when I was in corporate America, we were a third party for Fortune 500 companies. And one thing we could not do is go in and manage their people, right? And vice versa. With our people and our staff, their people couldn't manage ours, right? Like it just wasn't a thing. And one time that happened, an employee actually filed and said, "Hey, I've been co-managed." And it was a problem. I mean, it was a big problem for the organizations that was involved. So really hard to have a fractional COO. Our fractional COO type service is more in line with that mentor type COO, where what we do is we come in and meet with your integrator, your COO, your operations manager, and you to make sure that relationship's healthy and that you're growing properly, holding that strategy accountable, and somewhat in lifetime, teaching that CEO what they should be doing and how they should be working with you as a CEO, right?
Okay.
And so we do that more. It's a bi-weekly. We call it an alignment meeting where the CEO and COO or integrator visionary come together, and we basically drive that meeting for that COO to teach them what they need. And also we call it's something like what we call an in the business coach. Right? Like we're blocking and tackling you in that session where we're making sure the vision's being carried out and the strategy is being executed on. So,
Yep.
But if you're going to hire a COO, you need to invest in somebody that's going to grow with your organization.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you guys that are in my community watching this, I would compare it, a little bit of how we are like a fractional with you sales coach for your sales teams. And yes, we're doing call audits and we're meeting with your team leads or you bi-weekly to get your scorecard out, get you accountable to how you're going to lead your people. But ultimately, our job is to hold you accountable to leading your people where they're not reporting to us directly. And so it's really no different than in that sense. So let's talk a little bit about, because of time's sake, let's talk a little bit about how the pay structure would work for a COO for like, say, a 15 employee and under company. Do you see that it's changed based on the size of company it is? And then what are the incentives and how we hold them responsible?
So first of all, it's going to be created based on the category of business you're in. And also, because you understand, like depending on what niche you're in, real estate's a little bit different, but if you got into a SaaS organization, you have to have a high level person, right? So how much I would pay a COO in a wholesale business, drastically different than what I pay them in a SaaS business, right?
Yep.
Because they have to have skill sets that you don't have to have in a wholesale business, right? The other thing is, depending on the niche you're in, I like to promote my COO up through that niche, right? So for example, if we are a marketing type organization, I don't ever call an organization just sales. Like it's marketing and sales, right? And so I like to bring up my COOs in a marketing and sales business through marketing and sales, because that's the niche of that organization.
Makes sense.
And then if they have weaknesses in process, then we'll hire a fractional COO for them to manage, right? To bring that process in, right? Now, if it's an operational driven business, your property management, your, buy and hold, things like that, then that person should come up through operations. If you're Dave Richter, you're not bringing in a sales COO. You're not bringing in an operational COO. You're bringing in a CFO level person to be your COO and run the day-to-day, because they have to be versed in that niche. That's another thing I see people make a huge mistake. They automatically assume, because they're a wholesale business, they have to go get an operational driven person. It's not true. Like that person will come in and create massive defense for your organization. And you're 100% offense. That's all your business is an offensive minded company. So you don't want them limiting that, right? You don't want them coming. You want somebody. Now I'm still looking for profile here. I can get a captain profile in sales, right? I can get that. I can get a venture profile in sales. I can also get that venture or captain profile in operations. That profile it's just more like how they were trained, how they were brought up, what their mindset is, right? And so I'm still looking for those profiles. I'm still looking for the drive that creates behavior, but I'm looking for like the training of sales or marketing. Ren Bartlett was that. Like, for example, when I started working with the Irby group, like Ren was sitting in the marketing seat. And then the first day working with them, I'm like, Ren needs to be the EO here, or COO here. He had a marketing background. That's where it was. And that's what they want to do. They wanted to grow. I would have not have put somebody from operations in the seat at that point, because they would have slowed the growth. And that's not what they wanted. They wanted to grow quickly, right? And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for you to look for the person, identify what their background is, identify what your business niche is, and make sure that they come up through that niche. Next, now that you know that, what's the skill set needed for it? And then we're looking at pay, right? And I always start with salary.com. I go to salary.com. I look at what the salary or the going salary is for that territory, because Oklahoma City is different than Chicago, right? And then I ask, is this virtual or does this have to be in person? I personally am not a big fan of virtual CEOs. Never have been. Okay. I'm not saying they don't work, just my personal feeling. Just like Darren Damey doesn't like for you to have a VA answer your calls, right? Like that's his personal. Doesn't mean I agree with that, right? Like it's just we all have our different perspectives. I personally think that you should have somebody that's close to you that you can build trust with as a person and watch the performance. I think you have to have ultimate trust with your COO, trust them as a person, trust in the performance. And I think you have to see time and results to get that. Once I have that base salary from salary.com, then I look at it and say, is there any unique skill sets that require this to pay a little more? Most wholesale businesses under 15 employees are going to be somewhere in the $80,000 to $120,000 range from a COO. But that's not always the case. If you have somebody on here that's in San Diego, California, you're not going to get away with that. You're talking 150 to 300,000.
Yep.
Right. So you have to know what area you're in. Salary.com gives us that ability to put in what you're looking for, the territory you're looking for, and it'll show you 3: low, medium, and high. I always start with a medium. And then when I start to interview, if they don't have that 90% of the experience, they're not getting medium pay. They're going to the low end of that pay. Right. And as they grow and develop, might give them a little bit more. I also like to incentivize my CEO integrators based on performance. Typically a CEO is a very educated person. They also they understand and want to push towards cutting costs. So I have here, their goal should be reduce operational costs by 10%, reduce lead to delivery, so that cycle time, by 5%, grow revenue by department by 5%, implement performance management and productivity. They should enhance programs and process delivery. They should set and manage service level agreements, and they should lead the organizational meeting structure. And so based on that, I want to incentivize that performance based on profit share. I don't give COOs ownership in a company when I'm hiring them. If I'm starting here's where you're hear something different for me. If I'm starting a brand new business, like I am right now with a couple of them, I will bring in a visionary and or integrator, depending on what I need in that organization. If I don't have no experience, I won't sit in a visionary seat. I don't know media. I don't. So I will not be the visionary of that company. I will hire a visionary and an integrator to run that business. I will, however, when starting a new business, give a percentage of ownership away to that new business that I'm starting in areas I don't have experience in. However, I never give more than 30%. And it has to be with somebody that I had a relationship with for 3 or more years, right? If you notice who I give that ownership away to, Austin, Brandon, Susan, right? Eddie Wilson, like Those are who I've given ownership to. And I've had a relationship with them, every one of them, for more than 10 years, right? Like Brandon and Austin were in my wedding, right? I'm not going out to somebody on the street that I met 6 months ago and be like, hey, you want to take 30% of ownership of my company? Not going to happen, right? And I have a really hard time starting a new business with somebody like that if I don't have experience in it, right? However, if I start in any new business I start, I will not start a new business without evaluating three things: time, money, resources. How much time am I going to give this to succeed? And at what point am I checking to see if it succeeded? How much money do I need to start it? And how much money do I need to make in that time that I've determined? And what resources do I need? That's not just like resources of materials and softwares. It's people. What were people resources? And the very first person I hire with every new business I start is my integrator. And that could be an office manager level person at $15 an hour, $20 an hour. But I am going to hire that person to integrate for me because I don't want to sit in that seat. Yep. Never do. So I will give them profit share based on those objectives. So if you hit these objectives, you then will get up to 10% profit share. Okay, up to. I typically find that it's usually between 3 to 5% max. That's people, and I advise people to give in profit share. My comfort level is usually around 3%. But that is only if they hit 100% of the objectives of the organization. The company has to make money. We don't finish at 97% of goals and give that 3%. However, if they hit 100 to 102% of that goals, they get the 3. Anything over 102, 103 to 105, they get the other 2%.
Okay.
So they'll go up to 5% of it if we go over what we projected. In rare cases, I'll have a COO hit 120%. If they hit 120%, then they can earn up to another 5% profit share.
Okay.
But I write that in a tiered form in an offer letter to that COO when I bring them on board, so they know what they're getting into.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like some of the stuff in our industry, when I say our wholesaling, flipping houses, a lot of times people come to me and they give me, and I say, hey, you're looking to hire a COO. Before you give it this big label of COO, send me the list of all the things like you're hoping that they do. Yeah. And normally, if someone's not at a decent size yet, it's like administrative operational stuff. And we lose sight of the fact that you can find this talent for $50,000 or $60,000 and stop thinking that we have to partner or, even have the COO. I mean, the COO should be a much higher level people leader. Yeah. And so that's a message I wanted to really push, because I feel like a lot of times we get caught up thinking that what we want out of a COO is really like administrative stuff. Yeah. And I think that one thing we're very fortunate, obviously, because I'm married to Josh and I play the visionary / COO, and Josh runs out sales and construction. So I'm a little bit unique in that sense that I can be either one. But I will say, I wish if I could go back on a couple of the companies, I took too long to move the needle forward because I didn't put that person in place first. So I do definitely think that there is a seat for that person for you guys that are more of the marketing and sales and visionary person. But I would just be careful about how you approach it and what you think they're going to do. Because someone that might have that kind of experience comes in and you're like, go run to the post office and do the mail. It's like, well, they're going to say, hey, hire me someone else to go do that. So I think we just need to be careful. And as you guys hire these roles, these ops related roles, whether it's a COO, an ops person, administrative person, whatever it may be, that you get really clear with the task and responsibilities that this person is going to do. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Gary. We have a few minutes left, so I wanted to recap some of this. For anyone that's joining late and you're looking to potentially bring on an integrator or COO, I highly recommend going back to the beginning, because Gary went over a lot of good topics around the different types of COOs that you might be looking for. And ultimately, I think if you came in late to this, we talked about the difference between a COO and feeling like we have to partner with someone. So if we have a few minutes left, Gary, what are some other things that you want to leave everyone with right now?
Well, one of the bigger things is and I think we see struggle is when they do make that right hire and they bring the right person in, significance for the CEO tends to diminish and they don't feel like
Yep.
they matter, right? And they're like, what do I do? And so I actually, and Tiffany, maybe you could share this with people at some point. I have some slides that what should you spend your time doing? Like 40% of your work time throughout the week, 50 hours a week, 20 hours should be spent doing future opportunities like casting vision, creating a future organizational chart, making lists of where you'd love to hire, like growing that future vision of the company. 30% daily activities on executing of that strategy, like reviewing scorecards and stoplight reports and town hall meetings and having your alignment meeting with your COO. Then there's also 50% analyzing key factors, looking at data, analyzing gaps, focusing on the people, creating the right culture, right? Like, and then there's also 50% on personal, right? Where you go to masterminds and conferences and networking and things like that. Those are just quickly some of the things we should start doing as a CEO, right? That's where we need to spend our time, research and development, things like that. But then there are some things we should stop doing as a CEO. One is worrying, right? Proper planning and dreaming eliminates worry, right? So we have to have proper planning. Two, avoiding difficult conversations. I don't know why, but I find CEOs tend to get to the point where they avoid difficult conversations. Making every decision alone, where they feel like they have to make every decision. Right now, they now have a COO that's in the game with them. You don't make personal decisions alone without talking to Josh. I don't do it without talking to Susan. Like, this person is in a relationship with us. We have to make those decisions with them. And then tolerating poor performance. I don't have no clue why CEOs get into where they feel like they have to put up with, somebody that is not performing properly. So some of the things we should start doing, some things we should stop doing. And there's some habits that I put together. 10 habits of a very successful CEOs that I see. One is they read books. They're constantly reading.
Mm-hmm.
They ask good questions, right? They wake up early. They have a set routine that they usually live within. They manage their time properly. They exercise and meditate. One of the things I worked on, right? Like, that's something I needed more of in my life, and I'm using it every day now. They are motivators. Very successful CEOs are very good motivators. They take time for themselves. They don't use electronics before bed. A lot of them don't. A lot of them shut it down and have a routine to get out away from that before they go to bed. And they network. Successful CEOs. And honestly, those are the things, along with what I've talked about, where you should be spending your time once you have that proper COO. The worst thing that I can tell you that happens for CEOs and COOs when they have a great CEO is they don't get to a point of empowering them. They feel like they've lost significance and they try to step back in. And John Maxwell will tell you that where good people don't feel empowered, they don't stay. And they run them out. I know a guy in our industry right now that's been the COO of 3 organizations. And you would think, man, that guy must be a chump. He can't keep a job. And it's not true, actually. His CEOs were terrible. They would never empower. They felt threatened by his ability to lead. And they got frustrated that they weren't allowed in the day-to-day every single day and messing it up again, right? And they self-sabotage their business from having the right person and the right COO. And I'm going to say this last statement. All of us want, every single person that calls me and wants COO, they want an A-level COO and A-level leader. But they don't want to be A-level leaders themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, you're never going to attract a high-level person to work for you if you're not a good person or you're not a good leader.
Yep.
They're not going to do it. If they come in and they find out they're a better leader than you, then they are not going to stay. Right?
Yep.
And so our job as CEOs is to make sure that we are at our highest point of our game, that we're constantly learning and getting better ourselves. And you don't have to be far in front of your COO as a leader, but you do need to be one step ahead of them. Right? I mean, that's who we are as parents. It's not like you figured it out, right? With your daughter, Taylor, to lead her. You're just one step in front of her. And that's where your parents were too, right? Like, you're just one step of learning, and you're going to teach her at this point. And we got to be okay with that. We got to be okay with being that stage. But more importantly, I think you got to start, if you're looking for a COO, be ready and prepared that you are ready to lead that person today.
Yep.
Don't go get them just because everybody says you need them. If you're not ready to lead them, they'll actually be the biggest mistake you've ever made.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Is there any last comments, Aiden, that we want to bring up? Oh, I can bring up one more. I got a meeting I'm late to right now. Let me see what it says. Okay. When would you give profit share? He already answered that. Mandy said, are there any tests we can give a potential COO to make sure they are a good fit?
Absolutely. So predictive index is one. I actually, guys, I do 7 assessments on my CEOs when I bring them in. I love assessments. I think they're phenomenal. I do a fear assessment on doitscared.com because if they're scared and their biggest fear is people pleasing, they could struggle. They could struggle holding people accountable. The other ones is predictive index, tells us whether or not the behavioral traits are matching up to what I want. There's also I have an assessment, a CEO, COO assessment, that it's an electronic form of a spreadsheet. And I go in and there's 20 questions for the CEO and the COO, and you answer 1 to 5. And I usually use them in an interview. And if they score below an 80 in the COO, I typically don't hire them.
Okay.
I've had them before. They're applying for the COO role and they score 98% in visionary or CEO, and they score 65% in COO. And they said everything right, but by answering those questions, they showed me where their heart and desire was, right? And so those are just to name a few. The other one is the Working Genius. I love the Working Genius with Patrick Lencioni and the Table Group. I think that's a phenomenal assessment as well. But you don't have to do as many as I do. You got to understand, you're getting into a relationship with somebody. I want to know everything I can know about them. They're not like a $10, $12, $15, $20 an hour employee. They are going to be the face of your organization.
Yep.
So yeah, I do definitely want to do assessments.
Awesome. All right, guys. I am personally also running late to the next meeting. Gary, thanks for coming on. I know we didn't get to answer all of your questions, but I think that we answered the majority of them through him going over his presentation. If we have any common questions after this, Gary, I'll just shoot them over and answer them for these guys. But thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And how should people reach out to you or find you?
Sharper Process is our website. My email is gharper@sharperprocess. Probably the best way would be go to our website, and there's a way to connect with us there. All leads go to Jacob, who's my son. He's our Chief Growth Officer, and he does a really good job of helping us answer questions, get people what they need.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.